Create pockets of time, schedule pockets of time where you are unavailable. Create pockets of time where you are not hooked to that, adrenaline rush, the dopamine rush of checking things. Because what's really happening underneath the surface is when we are in that constant state of checking things, we are really hooked to attaching our sense of worth and value to what we do, achieve, and produce. And that needs to get unhooked.
Well, I am so excited to have this individual with us today for this interview about mindset and what you can do to have, in essence, a better life. The individual I have is a master life coach. She's the host of the podcast called Your Permission Prescription, which shows you how to say yes to you so that you can create the life that you desire. She's a best-selling author. Her books are published by Hay House, and she's the founder of the Levin Life Coach Academy. And I just want to give a big round of applause and a welcome to Nancy Levin. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Yes, like I said, I am excited to talk to you. There are so many things that I want to ask you about. So let's go ahead and start. So one of the goals of this summit is to help entrepreneurs master their mindset so that, quite frankly, so that they can have the quality of life that they really desire. So you show people how to identify their no's so that they can have, be free for their yeses. Because as entrepreneurs, we're getting bombarded all the time. So tell me, how does that work?
So this really is about boundaries. And boundaries begin with ourselves.
Okay.
So we learn what is okay and not okay. We decide what our own limits are around what we will do or not do, what we will accept or not, or tolerate or not. And so that's where we begin to know our non-negotiables.
Okay.
And we get to know what is the top priority that we want to serve in our own lives. So when we're talking about boundaries and you bring up, entrepreneurs and, we have this idea.
Sometimes we don't have the boundaries.
Right. And most often we don't, because if we're working for ourselves, we think we need to be on and available 24/7. We think we need to overgive and over-deliver. And we do so at a great cost and a great expense of our own peace of mind. So I always like to begin with saying that, my boundaries are between me and me, even if they involve someone else.
Interesting. Okay.
So we often hear the phrase, so-and-so crossed my boundaries. This is not true. If my boundaries are crossed, I am the one crossing them. My boundaries are mine to set and mine to hold. It's not up to anyone else to uphold, respect, or honor my boundaries in any way. So what this does is it moves us out of blame and victimhood and puts us into responsibility and empowerment so that I know that I am setting the boundaries for myself and I am holding them and I am taking care of myself. So even in an entrepreneurial setting, we can say that we are working, let's just make it up. I work Monday to Thursday, 10 to 4.
Okay.
And I don't respond to emails over the weekend, the long weekend. If I say this and then I go ahead and answer the phone on a Friday, I've crossed my own boundary. However, most of us will be in the mindset of, I can't believe that client called on a Friday when I've already told them I'm not available.
Hmm.
You see? So it really comes down to, how am I willing to show up for myself and stand by what's true for me?
Okay. And is that how you set your boundaries then? Is by really kind of looking at yourself and figuring out?
That's exactly what it is. So looking at, what do I need? What is okay and not okay? I don't have to verbalize my boundary to anybody else. And if I choose to, I need to be really careful about the language I use. So
Ooh,
many
okay.
people, yeah, many people will set a boundary with, don't call me on Fridays, or I need you to do this or to do that.
Okay.
You know, a boundary is not about anyone else doing anything different. A boundary isn't about anyone else behaving any differently. So if I verbalize the boundary, it's, I'm letting you know ahead of time. And in an arrangement with a client, you want to have a contract written, but I'm letting you know ahead of time. So it's really important to name the boundary if you choose to verbalize it, from I, as opposed to pointing a finger at someone else.
Wow, that's actually really interesting. Okay. So I see how that takes. So when you say I, whatever that boundary is, you can't really blame anybody anymore.
That's right.
And I love, because the whole, exactly what you said, the victimhood and all that, when
Yeah.
a boundary gets crossed, that it goes away.
Right. Right. Because if the boundary is crossed, it means I crossed it.
Hmm.
So there's no one to blame,
Wow.
no one else to blame. And that really is a game changer. It shifts everything.
Hmm.
It shifts everything.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That in itself is just a transformation. Just setting your boundaries.
Yes, it is. I'm telling you. That's why I wrote a whole book about it. But yes.
So, as again, as entrepreneurs, I hear, and I have felt this way in the past as well, that I'm stuck. My business is stuck. I can't seem to move to the next level, or I don't know what to do. But I think it's all about being kind of in that stuck mindset. And you have I think it's called a transformation equation
Hmm.
that I saw somewhere, and
Hmm.
I want to talk about that. So let's talk about
Great.
that first.
Great. So the transformation equation is change equals vision plus choice plus action. So if we want to make a change, we need to be willing to first uncover the vision of where we want to be.
Okay.
Then we use that vision as the gauge by which we make our choices and take our actions. Every choice, every action serves or sabotages our vision.
Okay.
Every single action and choice. So in every moment, we hold the power to bring our vision to fruition. And the way I look at this is, if we can agree that where we are right now, you, me, anyone watching
Mm-hmm.
or listening,
Right.
we are the culmination of every choice we've made. Every
Absolutely.
choice we've made has brought us right here.
That's so
So,
true. That's so
mhm,
true.
yes. So it only goes to prove that if I don't make a different choice, my future is going to arrive looking very much like my past or my present. So I look at our present moment choice as the predictor of our future. It's the crystal ball. We're all wanting to, go to a psychic, find out what our future holds. Well,
Right.
we actually have that crystal ball right here in the choices we make and the actions we take.
Wow. So, how do you go about doing that then? Are there steps that you can recommend for us to make that transformation and to have that vision? Because I think vision is so powerful when
Yes.
you're an entrepreneur.
Yes. So one of the things that I like to do, because I personally find a blue sky vision very overwhelming. So
Mm,
I really like to look at areas of my life like a pie.
okay.
So whether that's, family or relationships, health, work in the world, business, money,
Hmm. Hmm.
spirituality, creativity, adventure, whatever. Look at, create for yourself a pie of the parts of your life, and then allow yourself to pinpoint a vision for each area. So instead of just the big blue sky vision, let yourself create a vision in each of those areas. And here's the kicker: at the beginning, don't get hung up on the how.
Okay.
So when
Okay.
you're visioning, it's really important to not sort of tamp yourself down, because what often happens is we don't allow ourselves to want because we've already convinced ourselves we can't have.
Okay.
So the beginning is to really let it rip. When we move into the choice and action piece, it is literally about micro actions. Every choice we make, every action we take is going to determine our future.
Okay.
So we want to make sure that the actions we take are micro, are doable, digestible, bite sized, realistic. And we want to make sure that we are considering our vision with every choice.
Okay. So you go back, so you make this choice, this micro action, but then you go back and you review, does this align with my vision?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
And really, I would even say check if it aligns first.
Oh, okay.
So, for example, I can hold a vision of buying a house,
Hmm.
and I can want to buy a pair of shoes. And I then want to consider, does buying this pair of shoes align with saving money to buy the house?
Mm, that's a great analogy.
Right. And here's what's really important. If I decide to buy the shoes, at least I'm doing it consciously instead of mindlessly.
Okay.
Because this is what often happens. We have these avoidance strategies that kick in.
Mm,
So, whether it's drinking or drugs or eating or online shopping or working or exercising or, binge watching, it's not that any of these is bad inherently, but when we go to these avoidance strategies so that we don't have to feel or deal, that's when we go numb. So, part of this transformation equation is bringing us into awake awareness about our choices and
okay.
taking responsibility for our actions.
Okay. So when you go into this avoidance, so like for entrepreneurs, it'll be checking email or going to social media or going to even like kind of dumb stuff like, oh, let me go see how many people signed up for my course or whatever it might be,
Right,
over and over again. What do you, I mean, how do you get back on track?
right. So, two things I'll say right there. One is that it is an addiction.
Okay.
So, it is truly an addiction. And so there is going to be a withdrawal process of weaning ourselves off of the
Mm,
constant looking at our phone, at our laptop, at whatever. And one of the ways we can begin to do this is create pockets of time, schedule pockets of time where you are unavailable. Create pockets of time where you are not hooked to that, adrenaline rush, the dopamine rush
right.
of checking things.
Right.
Because what's really happening underneath the surface is when we are in that constant state of checking things, we are really hooked to attaching our sense of worth and value to what we do, achieve, and produce.
Right.
And that needs to get unhooked.
Mm.
So I, for example, every night when I go to sleep, I put my phone in airplane mode.
Oh my gosh, that's a fantastic idea.
And then I
Wow.
wake up in the morning and there are no notifications on my phone. I go right to my meditation cushion, then I journal, and then I put my Wi-Fi back on.
Wow. That's fantastic. I think
So
I'm going to have to do that.
it has changed my life. I've been doing it for about 5 years now, and it has changed my life because I no longer wake up with that sense of, first of all, the sense of worry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I used to wake up every single day. What do I need to worry about today?
What fire do I need to put out?
What fire do I need to
What's going
put out?
on?
Exactly, all of
Yes,
it.
yes, yes, yes.
And I don't. I wake up in my own world and I wake up and I give myself my favorite time of the day, which is first thing in the morning. No one else gets that time.
I think that's really valuable because I think if you give yourself that time in the morning, it almost gives you more clarity
Yes.
as far as like, yeah, and more, maybe even more openness. If does that make sense with what I'm
Yes.
saying? The
It,
ideals will come to you because you're not in this oh my gosh type of
right, right.
feeling.
You don't, I mean, what I noticed for myself is no matter what time I looked at my phone or my email
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, I already felt behind the eight ball.
Right.
I never feel that now because it's a conscious choice of, okay, my day begins with a non negotiable appointment with myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then when I am ready, I open up to the world instead of immediately being sucked into drama of
Mm-hmm.
any sort. And that really gives me the time to connect with myself so that I can really check in with what's going on with me before I get reactionary to what's happening outside of me.
Right.
And that also is really helpful when we are, we live so much of our lives other referenced. What do they think? What do they need? What do they
Right.
feel? What do they want? But this time allows me to connect with what do I feel? What do I need? What do I want? What do I think? And really, this is an origin point for being able to know my limits and set my boundaries. This is how I discover what my limits are.
Okay. I love that. I'm actually going to input that in. That's going to be my new morning routine for sure. It's interesting that you said something about some that we worry sometimes, of like what other people might think of us or that type of thing. And that kind of rolls into, and I know this is going to sound strange, possibly, but with entrepreneurs, I think setting pricing
Mm-hmm.
has a lot to do with what you think other people think of you and what you think your self worth is.
It's 100%. I wrote a book called Worthy,
Oh,
Boost Your Self-Worth to Grow Your Net Worth, because they are very intertwined. If we think we're not enough, we also think there isn't enough.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And part of the conversation about worth and value and charging, it's not really about charging what you're worth. It's charging commensurate with your value.
mm-hmm.
And your value begins with you valuing your time, you valuing your skills, you valuing your expertise, you valuing what you bring to the table. All of that needs to be in place to be confident in what you're charging and the investment others will make in you.
Because I think that is so great because I truly think that that is a really big problem that a lot of entrepreneurs, including myself at one time, have.
Hmm.
So, as entrepreneurs, why do we always have to consider our needs first? I read that you had written that somewhere. I don't know exactly where, but tell me more about that.
So many of us who are entrepreneurs get in this mindset of I need to, the whole thing of I need to under promise and over deliver, but
Right.
over deliver really becomes this vast over giving. We get in this mindset that we need to be available 24/7, that we, can do anything and all the things at all the times. And yet,
Right.
what happens is we often do this at our own expense. So we put ourselves on the back burner, if any burner at all.
Mm-hmm.
We're
Mm-hmm.
constantly in giving mode and not to ourselves. And what will ultimately happen is A, we will get resentful, and B, we will burn out. And
Absolutely.
boundaries are the antidote to both.
Okay.
So
I
if we are feeling resentful, it's a telltale sign a boundary needs to be put into place.
okay.
If we are feeling burned out, we have to look at where am I crossing my own boundaries in order to stay in this relationship, whether it be with a client, whether it be with a friend, a family member. We have to look at how am I crossing my own boundaries in order to keep the peace.
Mm-hmm. I think those are great questions to ask yourself because so many of the folks that are listening are also women. And as
Mm-hmm.
women, we also have children, and sometimes we're the primary caretaker of children as well. So, same thing. Are we ever even, you know, do we ever put ourselves first when it comes
That's
to
right.
that? And then you have a business on top of that that has, in essence, is almost like another child in
Mm-hmm.
many cases. So those are really great questions to ask. So when you start setting boundaries, have you found, like when you set these boundaries, do other people that maybe have crossed your boundaries in the past, do you find that they are resentful or and what do you do about that?
So here's the deal. Someone else's response to my truth is not my responsibility to
Mm-hmm.
manage.
Mm-hmm.
So if one of the ways we often cross our own boundaries is creeping over into someone else's territory, trying to make everything be okay over there.
Okay.
That's not our job. Our job is to be in alignment with what's true for us. Because here's the thing, if I show up with truth versus, so let's take it like this. If I say yes when I want to say no,
Mm-hmm.
if I say yes when I want to say no, what happens? First, I'm already thinking, how the hell am I going to get out of this? Right?
Right.
Or I see it sitting on my calendar and I'm just dreading it.
Mm-hmm.
And had I been honest in the first place, I would have actually been building more intimacy and trust and connection between us.
Mm.
So if I say no when I want to say no, I'm entrusting our connection to hold our differences. Most people think that the goal of relationships, any kind of relationship, whether it's entrepreneur and client,
Mm-hmm.
family, mother, daughter, anything, we think the goal of relationship is harmony at all cost.
Right.
It is not, because harmony at all cost comes at a very, very high cost to us.
Right. So I have to say, thank you again. You've given us so many lessons. And actually, I'll be honest, I absolutely love the what I find to be the best lesson of today is when things don't go your way, just take a pause, center yourself, Nancy
Yep.
was an absolute, she gave us the best example about that. And I love that you were my guest, and I really appreciate you being here. And please, by all means, go check her out. Go look at all her many books. I think there's so many that I'm going to end up reading. So, again, thank you, Nancy. It really has
Thank
been
you.
a pleasure.